In our previous episode of Market Journal, we talked about U.S. corn trade with Mexico and the focus on the North American Free Trade Agreement. Late last week, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer notified Congress President Donald Trump's administration would begin negotiating a modernized NAFTA as soon as mid-August. As we said, Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts and representatives from the U.S. and Nebraska corn industries recently hosted a group of Mexican customers capped by a press conference at the Nebraska State Capitol. National Corn Growers Association Executive Vice President Jon Doggett took part in that event and talked with us afterwards. We started our conversation by asking about the attitude of those visiting Mexican buyers over the last few months.
You know, we've heard a lot of things about what the Mexican buyers are thinking, what they're saying. We've heard that's what they're saying down in Mexico. So we're really glad that we brought a group up here and could hear from them firsthand, hear from them as they're in the United States of what are they thinking and what are their, what's going on with the Mexican market and how is some of this rhetoric playing out in Mexico. And so I think it's really been very, very interesting.
What are their main concerns?
Their main concern, there's a number of concerns, but the thing to remember is some of our politicians are prone to some rhetoric, and that raises a huge problem politically for some Mexican politicians. This rhetoric is not driving Mexican politicians towards being more accepting of the United States. In fact, if you want to be a successful politician in Mexico, you probably want to take the opposite course and be against just about everything that the U.S. stands for. That's been a huge problem for the Mexican buyers. They're seeing a lot of pushback from the Mexican government against some of the things that are being said and done here in this country.
So let's play this out. If Mexico would go to Argentina, Brazil, South America for their corn needs, some would say that's fine. The U.S. will just step in the vacuum that creates. Is that accurate?
If the Mexicans buy corn from the Argentinians and the Brazilians and the Argentinians have an expansion of their market, they're going to up their production. Just as the U.S. upped its production when we had the renewable fuel standard. We have so much competition out there. Yes, we are the #1 producer of corn around the world, but there's a lot of other countries that can produce feed grains, and they will step up.
Have you seen U.S. farmers come to bat and stand behind trade more than you thought they might?
I've been very pleased that in recent months we've seen our grassroots, our membership, our leadership get a lot more engaged in the trade issue. So we're seeing a lot more engagement. A couple of weeks ago when we had the discussion in the White House about withdrawing from NAFTA, it was very interesting. All of agriculture came together very, very quickly. All of the ag organizations activated their state affiliates. All of agriculture got members to start calling in and letting folks know this is a big, big concern for us.
What is the level of influence that agriculture has in D.C.?
Well, I think it waxes and it wanes, but there's a couple things to remember, and that is that there are fewer and fewer people involved in agriculture all the time, and that's going to be reflected in the composition of the Congress. Also is, you may have a rural district, but it may not be, is agriculture the dominant industry? Yes, but is agriculture what affects voting patterns? In the last couple elections, save the senatorial election in Iowa, virtually none of the congressional races have been revolving around agriculture. So that's important to remember that voters are not reflecting their concerns to candidates.
When you look at TPP and NAFTA, so group trade deals, how different are they from bilateral trade deals?
Bilateral, obviously, are between two countries. When you have a TPP with 12 nations involved, you work out problems that are, you can't, if you push here, you're going to have to pull there. It's a lot more complex, but it's a lot more comprehensive, and it also provides mechanisms so that you can resolve these trade disputes within that large group of nations. Bilaterals are a lot smaller, they're a lot more specific, and they take a long time. We were that close to having TPP done. Now, any of the bilaterals that we're talking about doing with any of those other 11 nations, they're all going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 years to complete. It takes a long time to do these negotiations. Then when you get done with them, then you have to send them to the Congress, and the Congress is going to have to sit down and look at them, hold hearings, do the things that they do, and then you're going to have that up and down vote. That's a long, long process to go ahead and do something that we were that close to getting done.
We focused a lot on corn. To close out with, how caught up is ethanol and ethanol co-products, or how caught up are they in this?
Absolutely, and anytime you talk about trade with Mexico, you're also going to be talking about sweeteners, fructose and sugar, whether it's a dispute between the Mexican sugar industry and the U.S. sugar industry, or the Mexican sugar industry and the U.S. fructose industry. So all of those things get involved in this whole thing with the Mexican market.